All right, guys, today we're going to be starting our open guard series. Now, when we talk about open guard, the first thing that I like to teach is a seated guard, all right? When my opponent is standing and I am seated, all right, this is the entry into almost all of the different open guards that we're going to cover in this series. So today we're going to be talking about seated guard versus my opponent is standing. All right, guys, so the first technique I want to show you guys from a seated guard is called the dummy sweep. All right, dummy sweep is a fantastic sweep to know. It's one of the first sweeps that you need as a white belt or as a blue belt when you're engaging somebody who's already standing. It's going to set up a lot of other things for you when you get really good at it. All right, so I like to stay on my hip. All right, some people play in a butterfly guard here, but when I'm here, I like to be on the hip. First and foremost, so I can control distance, okay? So I can always scoot backwards away from my opponent, cutting angles and things like that. But I can also, when I'm sitting on my hip, it also allows me to stand up at any point in time that I want to do a stand in base. I can stand in base, all right? So when we're in this position, all right, and I'm seated on my hip, I always want my hand behind me as a kickstand, all right? I cannot let him put my posture where my head is behind my hips, because if my head is behind my hips, I'm gonna be super easy to get pushed over and rolled to my back. So I always sit forward whenever I'm in this type of position, and I'm leaning forward in this way so that he cannot push me back or change my posture. So I definitely need that kickstand behind me. So as I'm entering into the dummy sweep, right, I'm looking to hook my front foot first. I sit in this position here and not open like this so that he can't enter inside of my guard, because I don't want him stepping his legs inside of my guard, and I want to be able to put my legs on the inside of his legs, all right? A lot of times when I'm playing a seated guard, I'm always cutting an angle, so that's always making him turn this direction and not walk my side, because I'm cutting around him and he doesn't want me getting towards his back as well. So as I go into my dummy sweep, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drive my feet in between his feet, but I have to scoot forward to do this. So I scoot and then my feet shoot, right? And as I shoot, you notice that this foot is more up and this one's facing out, all right? My hand is gonna go to the hip to make the push, but I also wanna follow with this foot, okay? So as I do this, I kick that foot out and I kind of follow his leg to help, you know, initiate the sweeping to keep him from stepping out and away from it, all right? So one more time. So I have my back kickstand back, my head is leaning forward, all right? My feet enter in, so I scoot my butt first so that I can shoot my feet. As I shoot my feet, foot hooks, I push there, this foot follows and kicks it out, and that is your basic dummy sweep. All right, guys, the second thing that I like to teach from the seated position when my opponent is still standing is a wrestle up. All right, so a wrestle up is normally when my opponent is not engaging, all right? So they're taking a higher posture, they're not bent over and engaging with me like they were the first time, and so that's when I'm gonna use my wrestle up. All right, so whenever I try to wrestle up on my opponent who's standing up and they have a high posture, I always wanna cut an angle. I don't wanna drive directly into him, because if I drive directly into him and he decides to push his knee into me, it's gonna push me backwards and prevent me from being able to wrestle up. So I always wanna cut an angle. In order to cut an angle, I'm gonna put my foot to the outside. That way I can scoot my butt around the corner. So I put my foot here and I come around the corner. Now as I go to wrestle up, I'm gonna drive my knee to the ground, keeping my hand as a post, right? And then my hand is gonna switch to the ankle, and I'm gonna come up and I'm gonna put that leg between my legs, right? As far as takedowns goes, you got lots of different options from here. I like to reach up and grab a collar, and I can push with my head in order to take down, or I can start to twist in this direction for my takedowns. Either way you like it. We're not going to go deep into takedowns on this, but the wrestle up is a great option when your opponent's not engaging. All right, so one more time. All right, so I'm here. I'm directly in front of my opponent, right? I have the option of being able to stand up away from him if I need to. I can also scoot to control and manage my distance, whatever he's doing, but he's staying postured up, so there's no grips available for me to pull him down or to engage in any type of open guard. So I'm gonna just shoot in around that leg. My foot's gonna go to the outside. As my foot goes to the outside, I butt scoot around, right? That puts my foot in a shin on shin position. I'm just gonna roll my knee to the ground and drive my shoulder into his shin, pulling my knee out from under me, and I'm gonna come to that ankle, come up into this takedown position, right? We can go to the hip, we can pull the leg, or we can go to the collar, all for the takedowns from there. So that is the second option when you are in seated guard and your opponent is standing. All right, guys, now we're going to combine the two. Now we're going to use our dummy sweep to set up our wrestle up, okay? So setting up the wrestle up with a dummy sweep is a perfect way of combining the two techniques, all right? So I'm going to go into my first technique again, so where I need to scoop my butt in so that I can drive my feet out. All right, so as I scoop my butt in and I drive my feet out to hit my dummy sweep, as I go to push on my opponent, I need to make sure that my leg follows him. What I need him to do is I need him to take a big step backwards. So if I'm just short with this and I go like this and he steps right there, my wrestle up is not gonna work. So you need to make sure that you are following through with your dummy sweep. So I'm gonna scoop my feet in, I'm gonna go to push, and I'm gonna make him take a big step backwards so that I can rotate my hips around. My leg is gonna come around, and this is gonna allow me to wrestle up into a wrestle up position, and I can go into my takedowns again. Okay, so one more time. I'm gonna go through that slowly. All right, so I'm gonna first butt scoot in so that I can drive my feet in between. Butt scoot in, drive my feet in between. As I go to push, I need to make sure that my foot tries to follow. So I go to push, foot tries to follow, and I can swing my leg under. I can come up into my wrestle up position. All right, so that's how to combine your dummy sweep into a wrestle up, and that's gonna be technique number 3. You guys give those a try, see how you like them, and let us know what you think.